Welcome to this week's OK at Work with myself, Sarah Sawyer, and my colleague, Russell Berger, both attorneys at Offit Kurman. And today we are talking about marijuana usage. So here where we're located in Maryland, we're going to have recreational use starting over the summer. I believe it's July 1. So it is we've already got medical use of marijuana here in Maryland, but now it's going to be recreational. Obviously, a lot of other states nationwide already have recreational, a lot have medical use. Getting a lot of questions from employers, especially about, well, what do I do about this? What do I need to be considering? And what are some things you're telling employers to be aware of, Russell?
Yeah, so now I'll kind of limit this to just the state of Maryland, where, as you mentioned, cannabis is going to open for recreational use on July 1, but has already been open for medicinal use. Nothing is changing as it pertains to employers. The prevalence, the usage might change, but the laws that pertain to employers is not changing. And as of now, there's no law in Maryland that says you have to do or not do anything specific related to cannabis use. And I should say, with respect to taking an adverse action against an employee because of cannabis use. So really what we're seeing a lot of right now is questions regarding, like, hey, if this is so common and it's really hard for me to recruit and retain employees right now, do I need to test? Should I still test? Am I getting benefit out of it? And what we're seeing a lot of employers in Maryland do is to say, I'm not going to do, testing at the time of hire, unless there's a regulation that requires me to do so because they're drivers or I'm in a super high safety risk industry. I'm not going to do testing, and I'm going to regulate behavior more so than I'm going to test. I'm going to manage. I'm going to train my managers to be cognizant and to pay attention to levels of alertness and focus from employees, which presumably managers should be doing anyway. And I'm going to manage it that way. And maybe I'll test if there's an accident. Maybe I'll do some testing if someone seems to be inebriated in the workplace. But I'm not going to do on the job, on hire testing. I'm not going to do random testing, because if I start doing that, I'm going to run a lot of employees away, and I can't afford to run employees away right now.
Yeah, and it's an interesting thing. It's difference by industry, because with a lot of employers, this is not going to have much of an impact because, unless they're intoxicated at work, just like, someone came drunk to work, obviously you're going to do something about that, right? But with other industries where, you kind of touched on with safety, or different industries where it's more problematic or more heavily regulated. We see this a lot with logistics industry, so that have DOT regulations. That it's becoming a little bit of a bigger issue because employees read a lot of headlines, right? They look at the headline, they don't read the law. So they say, okay, it's recreational now and it's legal, so I can use it on my spare time, which just isn't the case for people who are DOT regulated. It also shouldn't be the case, people using it on the spot. Anytime you're doing any kind of anything that involves safety and impairment, it becomes a little bit more challenging or concerning for employers. So that's something that, any of my clients that are in those industries, especially the logistics industry, I've been advising them to make sure that they're really clear with their employees on this, that there are exceptions for recreational usage under DOT, and if they're going to be, driving big vehicles and things like that, that might be regulated, because a headline's not going to tell enough. And that's especially true with some states where there are protections for employees. So an employee will read a headline that says, oh, such and such state, New York has passed a law limiting employers' ability to fire employees for recreational use of marijuana. And the employee will be like, all right, well, I can't be fired for this, which is not necessarily true. A lot of those laws that protect employees from adverse action related to recreational use have caveats to them, especially when there are federal regulations like DOT regulations involved.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's two levels of this. I think as employers should be up to date on what laws may or may not apply to them, and should be proactive about coming up with a strategy for navigating testing and policing of it within the workplace. And by the same token, to your point, I think the second level is making sure employees are aware. And if there's going to be testing required of them, that employers are educating their employees about it, so that hopefully there isn't a need to terminate employees or to hold them off of certain jobs or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, definitely important to communicate on this topic and know where things stand. So well, stay tuned. I know there'll be more to come in Maryland, especially as this rolls out, and we may end up seeing some of those laws around protecting employees against adverse action that we're seeing in other states. So we'll have to see how things play out. Well, thank you, Russell. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, Sarah.